The movie opens in 1974, in a small town in Northern Ireland, where two mafia group members enter a local bar. Unbeknownst to them, a criminal named Dwarian, accompanied by her brother Curtis and their associates Harry and Ron, strategically positions herself at a distance. Intent on a sinister plan, Harry and Ron plant a bomb near the bar and calmly walk away. However, Dwarian spots a group of schoolchildren playing near the rigged car. Realizing the imminent danger, she shouts at them to run away. Unfortunately, it's too late. The bomb explodes, resulting in the tragic deaths of the mafia members and the innocent children. Dwarian, Curtis, Ron, and Harry make a hasty exit in a getaway car. Afterward, we are introduced to our main character, an elderly man named Murphy. He is currently engaged in shotgun practice with the local sheriff, Vincent. A skillful marksman, Murphy outshines the sheriff in the competition and wins the bet. Following this, they head to Murphy's residence, discussing the growing crimes in the town. Later that evening, Murphy enters a crowded bar to have a couple of beers. For some reason, he is also holding a picture with a person's face circled. The bar's announcer introduces a famous singer named Bart, who wastes no time impressing everyone with his amazing skills. Surprisingly, we learn that the photo Murphy is holding is of none other than Bart. After a while, Murphy drives to a secluded spot near the forest. He opens his car's trunk, revealing Bart trapped inside. Armed with a shotgun, Murphy leads him to a hillside, hands him a shovel, and instructs him to dig. The singer follows his orders and soon realizes that the area is a makeshift graveyard for Murphy's victims. Bart inquires how many people Murphy has killed to date, but Murphy remains silent. As the two engage in one final conversation, Bart reveals that he had a troubled youth. He was a hot-tempered lad who may have angered a few people, but now he has put all of that behind him. Deep in thought, Murphy seems to reflect on Bart's words. However, the moment takes a dark turn when Murphy abruptly shoots Bart, ending his life. He then buries the singer in the same pit he dug and plants a tree as a macabre marker above it. At this point, it becomes evident that Murphy is a hitman who kills people for money. Next, he heads to his manager Robert's house, where Robert's wife, Josie, greets him and inquires about his favorite dish, promising to prepare it for him. A new member of their team, Kevin, arrives and grabs bread from Josie's basket. Murphy, not liking this, comments on the impatience of young people. Murphy then meets with Robert and informs him that he has completed the assigned task. He also notices Kevin leaving in his car and suddenly suggests that his manager entrust all future contracts to the young man. Here, Murphy opens up about his dark deeds since his wife's death, explaining that he now wants to stop killing and do something else. He also reveals that his wife always wanted him to live a better life, helping and caring for others. This revelation shocks Robert, who inquires about Murphy's future plans. Murphy says he wants to pursue farming, where he can grow plants in a garden. Appreciating his decision, Robert hands over the payment for the completed contract and bids him farewell. The next day, Murphy begins farming outside his home. He clears the field and visits the town to buy various seeds. When he returns, he visits his kind neighbor Rita's house and joins her for dinner. The old woman is delighted to hear about his new venture into farming. She also questions his cooking skills, comparing them with his late wife's. As the two continue talking, it becomes evident that they are slowly bonding over shared memories and fostering a newfound connection. Afterward, Murphy goes to the other side of his neighborhood, where he encounters a girl named Moya. She is fishing on a bridge, and seeing her struggling, he provides her with a handkerchief to pull the nylon string. Murphy learns that the girl was told to catch a fish for dinner. As the bait is being pulled, Moya accidentally drops her food box in the water. Murphy notices wounds on her neck, but the little girl hides them and runs away. In the next scene, Murphy goes to meet Moya's mother, Alara, at her workplace, where she is revealed to be a bartender. Murphy praises her work and explains Moya's lunchbox incident, but he blames himself for distracting the child. Alara understands. Later that night, when Murphy walks out of the bar, he encounters Moya, who wants to run away. He informs her that he has already explained to her mother that he was responsible for the lunchbox mishap. However, the girl remains silent, so he leaves her alone and walks away. The girl then decides to follow him. But as soon as they reach Moya's house, her uncle Curtis appears outside. Murphy senses something dangerous about this rude guy, one of the men who planned the bombing at the start of the film. It seems like they are preparing for something big. The next morning, Murphy brings a food basket for the little girl and hands it to Alara. He sees Moya sitting alone and asks if she is okay. She appears to be afraid and hands him a bullet. He asks where she got it. Our hero then inquires if the bullet has something to do with the bruises on her body, but the worried little girl remains tight-lipped. Curtis suddenly arrives, and as soon as Moya sees him, she rushes inside the house. The rude man asks Alara for some food supplies and indirectly refers to Murphy as a pedophile before leaving with the food. Murphy then questions Curtis about his identity, and Alara reveals that her brother married Curtis' sister, who promptly got herself killed. The woman also expresses a wish to get rid of Curtis. In the next scene, Murphy shows Robert the bullet that Moya gave him and requests Robert's help in getting rid of Curtis, mentioning the harm he's done to the little girl. Even after learning that Curtis threatens the child to stay silent with an engraved bullet, Robert declines to help. Later on, Murphy stalks Curtis from a distance, seemingly planning something. On his way home, Curtis encounters Murphy, who offers to drive him home. Curtis nonchalantly accepts the offer. During their conversation, Murphy reminisces about his own youthful enthusiasm for shooting and asks Curtis if he likes guns. When Curtis expresses his interest, Murphy claims to have a great collection of rare ammunition. He then stops the car and shows Curtis a unique firearm hidden in the trunk. When Curtis gets distracted, Murphy drives Curtis to the forest to dispose of him, but as he tries to get him out of the trunk, Curtis attacks him with a knife. Murphy manages to shoot him, but before he can finish him off, the gun goes blank. Kevin suddenly appears and shoots Curtis right in the head. When asked why he's there, Kevin reveals that Robert instructed him to keep an eye on Murphy. After this, the two bury Curtis and head to a bar to unwind. While they talk, Kevin expresses admiration for Murphy's work and reveals himself to be a fan. He claims that he kills when he needs money, but he still can't compete with Murphy's body count, calling it psychotic. This enrages Murphy, who declares that killing is no laughing matter and warns Kevin that if he ever hears him laugh at someone else's dying tears, he'll beat the hell out of him. 2 days later, when Curtis does not arrive at their usual meeting spot, Dorian begins to worry. She decides to search for him. Soon, she arrives at Alara's house and inquires about her brother, but the bartender reveals she hasn't seen him either. When Alara expresses frustration and says bad things about Curtis, the enraged Dorian grabs her by the neck and scolds her. She then checks Curtis' pistol and discovers a missing bullet, which makes her even more worried. Following this, Dorian contacts her contractor to inquire about Curtis, and she learns that there's someone in the city who might help. In the next scene, Dorian does what she was told and goes to Robert's house to talk about her missing brother, Curtis. Hearing Curtis' name, Robert pretends not to recognize him and claims that his men are unavailable at the moment. Unfortunately, when she's about to leave, Dorian retrieves a bullet from the floor, and to her surprise, it perfectly matches the empty reloading space in her pistol. She then points the gun at Robert and threatens him to reveal the truth. The manager admits that Curtis is dead but clarifies that he didn't kill him. He is forced to reveal that a man named Murphy did it some days ago. As soon as Dorian learns that her brother is no more, she shoots and kills Robert. His wife, Josie, hears the commotion and rushes to the room, but she is stopped by Dorian, who asks her to stay outside. Dorian also reveals that her husband has been killed and tells the devastated Josie to go back to her room. Following this, Dorian and her goons are now hell-bent on finding the person who killed Curtis. Later, Murphy and Kevin learn of Robert's death from Josie. Murphy first calms Josie down and assures her that they will handle everything. In response, she reveals that a woman was aggressively inquiring about Curtis. This makes the men suspect that someone is seeking revenge for his death, Murphy and Kevin then destroy all the evidence papers of their previous and upcoming plans, and Murphy advises Josie to call the police. Meanwhile, the bad guys are roaming around the town to find Murphy. Desperate to get some clues about his location, Dwarian urges Harry to visit a shop, claiming to be Murphy's nephew. To his delight, the shopkeeper believes him and gives him Murphy's address correctly. Upon leaving, Harry encounters Sheriff Vincent at the door. The latter, who is unfamiliar with Harry, questions his presence in the city. The shopkeeper mentions that the guy is Murphy's nephew, but Vincent has concerns about it. Soon, the group reaches Murphy's house, where they find war photos. At the same time, Murphy is also on his way home when he notices the lights on in his room. Sensing something amiss, he urges Kevin to stop the car. The two then head to a nearby location from where they can track the activities of the house. While waiting, Kevin reveals that he ran away from home. He then got into a fight at a bar and won it, which caught the attention of Robert, and this eventually led to his employment. Murphy shares his own story, explaining his transformation from a war-hardened soldier to a killer after his wife's death. This is when Robert came calling. The following morning, Dwarian is livid because Murphy hasn't returned home the whole night. She vents her frustration by damaging his car parked outside the house. Kevin witnesses this and points his gun at Dwarian, but Murphy stops him from shooting her. Meanwhile, Rita walks out of her house and looks at Dwarian. The gangster woman confronts her and asks about Murphy, but when the poor woman passes a mean remark, Dwarian punches her in the face and knocks her unconscious. She then leaves the house with her associates. As soon as she leaves, Murphy and Kevin rush toward Rita and carry her inside her house. Murphy then anonymously contacts the medical staff and summons them to treat Rita. Later, at Kevin's house, Murphy discovers a burnt newspaper that talks about the Belfast bombing. Curious, he goes to a shop and buys the same newspaper to learn more. The article reads that the major suspects in the bombing case are none other than Dwarian, her brother, and their associates. Afterward, Murphy discovers the group's hiding location, where they have built different explosives. He then heads to an ongoing football match, which is being attended by the entire city, including Dwarian and her associates. At the open stadium, Ron learns that their names and pictures have just been published in the newspaper as suspects. This freaks him out, so he suggests leaving the country as soon as possible, but Dwarian refuses, as she wants to take revenge for her brother's death. Meanwhile, Murphy tracks down Dwarian during the match and follows her when she walks to the restroom. But to his bad luck, Dwarian approaches him from behind and points a gun at him. At this moment, Murphy reveals that he didn't kill her brother but knows who did. Dwarian demands the person responsible, and Murphy agrees to bring him to the bar that night. The gangster woman agrees to it but threatens to bomb the entire bar if he doesn't arrive on time with the culprit. In the evening, Murphy informs Kevin of his plan to meet Dwarian at the bar. He says that he has no choice but to kill her. This makes Kevin excited, as he has always dreamed of working in such a mission. Later that day, the two meet outside the bar. Kevin brings guns, however, Murphy says that he doesn't need them because he has his own tools. He suddenly hands the boy a good amount of cash and asks him to start a new life elsewhere, like in California. He urges Kevin to leave the fight behind and tells him not to waste his youth doing this anymore. Hearing all this, Kevin becomes emotional, as no one has ever been nice to him. He thanks Murphy before departing. Up next, Murphy enters the bar and talks with Vincent for a while. When the curious sheriff inquires about what he does for a living now, Murphy says Vincent doesn't want to know. Soon, he finally notices Dwarian and approaches her to talk. Meanwhile, we see Ron walking toward the bar, while carrying a suspicious bag with him. As Vincent goes outside to smoke, he notices Harry in his scratched car. The sheriff then goes inside and finds Ron carrying a suspicious bag with him. On the other hand, Murphy and Dwarian engage in conversation. He wants them to go to the backyard to discuss the matter, but she threatens to shoot him if he moves even an inch. All of a sudden, Kevin arrives there, pretending to be interested in her. When she keeps rejecting him, he mentions her name, taking her by surprise. Kevin even boasts that he's the one who killed her brother. Unfortunately, this only enrages Dwarian, and she ends up shooting him in the abdomen,
and a tense shootout ensues inside the bar.
While the people are running outside, Vincent discovers a bomb in Ron's bag, but Harry intercepts him. Kevin manages to shoot Dorian, and in the chaos, Murphy also manages to shoot Ron. Up next, he subdues Harry before he can detonate the bomb. Harry is shredded to pieces, while Kevin, who is slowly succumbing to his injuries, encourages Murphy to move to California with his money. Just then, Dorian shoots him in the head, killing him. Murphy moves to pursue Dorian, but he is stopped by Ron, and so he angrily kills Ron in retaliation. Moments later, Dorian walks out of the bar, and Murphy follows her. After a while, they reach a church, where she requests him for a straightforward shooting as a form of repentance for their sins. Murphy agrees, acknowledging their shared guilt. However, Dorian dies due to excessive blood loss. Later, Murphy buries her in the forest and plants a tree on top of her grave. In the final scene, he meets Rita, seeking forgiveness for not sharing his past. Rita assures him that no explanation is necessary, and the movie ends with Murphy expressing gratitude and departing, embarking on a journey to find a new life. Thus, we reach the end of this film. Thanks for watching. You can like this video to support us. Don't forget to subscribe for more content. See you in the next video. Goodbye.